¿Quién dijo? Si a alguien le interesa salvar al planeta, lo único que debe de hacer es dejar de comer carne. Es sorprendente si pensamos en ello. El vegetarianismo incide en tantas cosas de un solo golpe: la ecología, la hambruna y la crueldad. Paul McCartney, músico, defensor de los derechos de los animales, el vegetarianismo y la educación musical. Participa en campañas contra las minas terrestres, la caza de focas y la deuda del mundo en desarrollo.
El refugio Battlesea en Londres cuenta con todos los avances de la medicina en favor de los animales. Se sostiene con donativos del público y el trabajo de muchos voluntarios. ¿Vamos a conocerlo? En Gran Bretaña, las historias de amor entre personas y sus perros o gatos no son infrecuentes. Narradas en la ficción, pero sobre todo vividas por sus grandes literatos. George Bernard Shaw, William Butler Yeats, Thomas Hardy, Virginia Woolf, Charles Dickens. Los británicos se definen como amantes de los animales, en este caso de los animales de compañía por definición. Con una larga historia, este refugio prueba que en gran medida esto es cierto.
Natalie, tell me about this refugee, the Battlesea Dogs and Cats refugee. When did it begin to work?
It began in 1860, so a very long time ago, over 150 years ago. Mary Tilby was a lady in Victorian England who wanted to look after all of the dogs that were abandoned and wandering the streets of London. So she set up this refuge in North London at Royal Holloway, and then 10 years later we moved venue to here at Battlesea, which is where we still are today.
How do you finance this work?
We're very lucky. We've got an amazing fundraising team that work with a lot of individuals to raise the money. We don't receive any government funding, so it's all through donations that people make. So some people will go and do lots of crazy events, skydiving and things like that to raise money. Other people may donate.
Hagamos un recorrido por las instalaciones.
Okay, so this is one of the kennel blocks that's open to the public. So all of these dogs are looking for a new home. So people come around and have a look around. So we have, I think, he's gone for a walk. Some have gone for a walk, but dogs like Astro here, who's a nice little terrier. So we get dogs in all sorts of shapes and sizes and breeds. So smaller ones and bigger ones. Astro.
Algunos son entregados por sus dueños y otros fueron encontrados en la calle. Tras ser atendidos médicamente, inicia el procedimiento de adopción. Buffy, de 6 meses de edad, está en espera de un hogar.
We're very lucky we have a lot of volunteers here. So we have over 1,000 volunteers and they come and they take the dogs for walks for us and spend time with them.
How many animals do you receive each year?
I think it's about 3,000 a year that we're looking after. In total, we've looked after over all the years over 3.1 million dogs and cats. So it's a lot of animals that we have each year. Here on site at any one point in time, we'll have about 250 dogs and about 100 cats. So it's a lot of animals.
Además de dar refugio a los perros, Battlesea protege a los gatos, animales un tanto más difíciles de recuperar cuando son abandonados y vagan por las calles londinenses. Pero una vez que están en Battlesea, pueden estar seguros que recibirán los mejores cuidados.
Natalie, dogs and cats have different characteristics.
Yes.
What happened with cats?
Well, we can go and see some cats now. Cats, obviously, they developed as solitary predators, whereas dogs are very social and generally were developed to live in groups. Try and encourage owners to get all of their cats neutered so that they can't have kittens, so that we get control of the population of cats, because it is very big here in the UK, as in other parts of Europe and things.
So I can imagine that it takes more time to rehome a cat than a dog.
It's very, for some cats, they get rehomed very quickly. Other cats will stay with us for a little bit longer. I think probably half and half. And I think there's a lot of people in the UK that own both dogs and cats. I think the cat population is slowly rising, possibly even outnumbering the dogs in some respects. So cats are definitely loved by the UK, just as much, if not more so, than dogs.
Battlesea también colabora en casos de crueldad contra los animales, que la policía toma muy en serio.
I think most cases, if there's the evidence against people, then they get taken very seriously. The laws were recently changed, and the sentencing and the prison sentencing was increased for cases. So it is something that UK politicians are taking seriously, and obviously we have a team that works very closely with the government to try and work in regards to legislation and make sure that the legislation is effective.
Aquí también desarrollan programas que incluyen visitas a escuelas. La conciencia social y la educación son clave para llevar a la realidad el pregonado amor británico por perros y gatos.
I think it's everybody's responsibility to look after animals, whether they own a pet or not. It's really our duty of care to be responsible and care for the animals as much as you know, they're part of our life and the world that we live in. So we need to be aware of their needs and really make sure that we're caring for them just as much as, you know, we would want somebody to look after us if we needed help.
La sociedad denominada PETA, Gente por el Trato Ético a los Animales, nació en los Estados Unidos y se ha extendido por todo el planeta. Es una de las agrupaciones animalistas más influyentes que existen. Visitamos su sede en Londres y platicamos con su directora, Mimi Bekechi. Mimi, thank you very much for this conversation. Firstly, I would like to know when PETA opened in the UK and how many affiliates do you have in the country?
Well, PETA UK was founded in 1994, so we're 21 years old this year. And we started off with just a few people, and now we have over 400,000 members and supporters in the UK, so we're really growing. Working here, there are about 25 full-time members of staff, and that ranges from campaigns to marketing to press.
What are the main issues you are committed?
Well, PETA's mission statement is very clear and very simple. It's that animals don't belong to us. They're not ours. They're not ours to take their skin to wear. They don't belong to us. Their bodies don't belong to us to eat. They're not ours to use for entertainment, and they're not ours to experiment on or abuse in any other ways. So those are the issues that we work on. It's a broad spectrum.
You have undertaken so many high-impact investigations. Some of them are undercover. What are PETA policies in this regard?
But for skins, for example, the latest campaign that we've done is for Angora wool, which you may have seen. Our affiliate in Asia actually recorded undercover investigation into the Angora wool industry, and they discovered an incredibly gruesome and barbaric industry where rabbits are kept in cages for their entire lives, and every few months they're taken out of their cage and their fur is literally ripped out of their body. So they're tethered down by their paws, and then the fur is ripped straight out of their body, and you can hear them screaming in pain. And then they're put back into their cages for their hair to grow back, and then that happens to them every 3 months. Once we got this footage, we released it, and it made a huge impact everywhere in the world. In the UK, we've seen department stores and chains dropping Angora. You know, almost every week a new company has stopped selling it. Like Topshop, H&M, French Connection, New Look, Calvin Klein, Ralph Lauren. You know, more and more stores are stopping.
What comes first, a change on society or a change of the law?
But you know, the law is slow to progress. I think people are actually, it's much more important to reach the consumers. And once people change their opinion about things, then the law follows. Generally, it doesn't happen with the law changes first. It's because the public demands for the law to change. You can see in Europe, for example, we have a ban on cat and dog fur from China. We also have a ban on importing seal products from Canada. And those laws have come because the European public has demanded it. We don't want to have anything to do with products of torture. And it's seeing that footage, seeing what's happening, that changes people's hearts and minds. And once that change happens, the law will follow.
El trabajo de PETA se basa principalmente en voluntarios, personas convencidas de que es posible transformar el mundo. Si se han logrado tantos avances en el caso de los derechos humanos, ¿por qué no en los animales?
Mimi, is veganism a realistic idea?
Has really been increasing a lot over the last few years. Veganism used to be something that was, that meant that you were a hippie, you're wearing sandals, and now it's the mainstream in the UK. You can go into a supermarket, you'll see everything very clearly labeled vegan, restaurants doing vegan promotions, and now 20% of 16 to 24-year-olds in the UK classify themselves vegetarian or vegan. So there's been a big shift in the UK in that way, which is wonderful, but in some ways we're still very far behind where we should be. Most animals in the UK that are bred for food are still raised in factory farms. So piglets and chickens and cows spend their whole lives in huge sheds by the thousands, where they never go outside, they never smell fresh air, they never see the sunlight, they never have the opportunity to raise their babies or do anything that's natural to them. And that's where the majority of the food, meat and animal products comes from in the UK.
As well as other organizations, PETA has been accused of terrorism. Do you advocate those kind of activities?
We are working to the principle of animal rights. It's a philosophy that is for all living beings, whether you have 2 feet, 4 feet, whether you have feathers, whether you have fins. We're for rights for all and nonviolence for all. And so, of course, in any movement, there's always going to be some people who take matters into their own hands, who are frustrated, and that's the same for every single movement. There are those people, but what that fringe group of people within the animal rights movement are doing, if we look at it in context, what they're doing is they're breaking into laboratories and they're rescuing animals. The terror, if we want to talk about terrorism, the terror is what's happening inside those buildings to those animals.
And for us ordinary people, what is the best way to participate against cruelty?
If people care about animals, the most important thing that they can do for them, stop eating them. That's the number one thing. Don't eat them. Don't eat their flesh. Doesn't belong to us, and we don't need it. We don't need it to be healthy. We don't need it to be strong. The planet, we're killing the planet as well as animals when we're eating animals. It's the biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. It's, the meat industry is absolutely toxic for this planet. The United Nations has said that a global shift towards a vegan diet is essential if we're going to protect the world from the worst effects of climate change.
Mimi, you see so many terrible situations on a daily basis. How do you manage to go on?
What we need to, the way that I get through it is it makes me more determined, actually. It makes me more determined to change it, to do something about it. I think when you're faced with it every day in a very real way, when you see animals suffering in a very real way, then it motivates you to keep going, to fight harder, to work harder, to do more. And so I think that's the only way. Otherwise, we'll sit in a corner and cry all day long. So it's one or the other. And we use that pain to fuel us to work harder.
Mimi, many thanks.
Thanks.
En un instante, la leyenda de los cuervos de la Torre de Londres y el comentario editorial de la activista Mariaelena Hoyo.